One of the most amazing tools that's on here that got added with 3.0 is that you have a multiple choice assessment. And so what was added was the ability to not only get the assessment generated, but then once it is generated, we can directly export it into a Google form. So starting here with this multiple choice assessment, there's three categories here, and you can put in as much information as you want, but you're going to choose a grade level. Okay, so you put whatever grade it is, and then you can put your number of questions. There's 4 options here, so 5, 10, 15, 20. And then what we can do is we can be very specific about what we are testing on. What is our assessment based on? So in the category, you're going to see topic, standard text, or description of the assessment. So for this, I might say something like 9.4.1.1, Minnesota State Social Studies Standard for World History. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Generate. And we're going to get that standard produced first of all. Okay, so let's just take a look at, it's going to give you a title, it's going to give you the questions, it's then going to also give you the answer key. Down below you have some options, so you have some quick cards that are put in. This one generated, are there any explanations for each correct answer? Can you provide more practice questions on this topic? So you could choose one of those. If I wanted to say, I could choose that, or maybe what I want to do is I decide, okay, I want to add in 5 more questions. And then what it's going to do is it's going to ask me, what standard am I focusing on? Okay, and so basically it's clarifying, is this going to be something that is related to the initial standard, or is it going to be something that is covering another standard that is getting paired together? And for this, I'm just going to say same standard. And then it's going to push out those extra questions, right? So now we've got 10 questions here, and what we can do is a couple things. If you look to the right, if you're hovering over your section for this assessment, one of the things that you can do is you can copy it. So let's say that you want to copy it and put it into a Google Doc, or you want to put it into a Microsoft Word program because you're intending to print paper copies of these. You could copy that and put it in there, and then you can go ahead and print it off. So it's just a normal copy and paste, nothing crazy. And then your second option is to save the resource. So one thing that you can do is, let's say that we want to come back to this later. It's going to go to your output history either way. However, you can kind of work ahead a little bit to save this assessment as a resource in the output history, and it just helps with filtering and being able to go back to things easily. And so we can just call it, standard 9.4.1.1. Nothing, just pretty simple. Hit save. Okay, and that's going to go into our output history. You'll see it here. If I go to resources, it's right there. Right, and so we can go back to that. We'll just go back into our thread here. And what you're going to notice as the third option, and one of the really nice things that got added to this new version of Magic School, is the export form. And this is going to be really nice for your digital assessments, being able to take this and directly pull it into Google Forms, and then you can still edit it from there. So let's just click on Export Form. and it's going to think for a minute, and then we're going to get a pop-up here. And it's going to say the form based on your questions has been created successfully and has been added to your Google account. Okay, so from here, I'm going to just click Open Form, and it's going to bring us directly to Google Forms. And what we see is the exact questions that were in the previous one there on Magic School. Okay, now what you do notice is it's not taking the 5 that were added. So that's just something to be aware of when you're initially creating that. Maybe they'll adjust that later. Maybe there'll be something that they'll put in, an update that will occur that will recognize that and pull it all in. But what you can see with this is that we only have the 5 initial questions. So one thing to be cognizant of is when you're creating this initially, when we're going to our multiple choice assessments and we're choosing our number of questions, if your intention is to pull it into Google Forms, and you know that, I would be, somewhat intentional about, that you want to do 10 or 20 questions or what have you. So you can do any of that, pull it in, you'll get your Google form, you can name it. So now we're in a situation where it's just, you're going to operate just as you would if you were creating this thing from scratch in Google Forms. The nice thing though is that if you look, you have your questions and your answers for this multiple choice, and it already put in all of the information for the answer key. So it's going to match that same one that we had here, and we'll look at our thread. So if we looked at the answer key, right? So it noticed C was the answer. So Greek Empire was the answer for number 1. If we look at number 1, we're going to see Greek Empire, and that check mark and the answer key has already all been taken care of. It's also by default put in these questions as required, meaning if you're familiar with Google Forms, they can't submit it if a question hasn't been answered. Okay, so this is really nice. I mean, this is a quick way to be able to get an assessment from Magic School and deliver that to your students. I still always, with all of these, I mean, it's always important to make sure that you're looking through the questions. I know a lot of the legwork is done already with having the questions and the answer key and all that done, and that's great. But at the same time, you're still the content expert for your school. So make sure you take a look at the questions. Make sure there isn't any glaring errors. You don't want it to be something where they're learning that, this answer is actually the Roman Empire and not the Greek Empire. So there's just some things there still that we should always be aware of. Make sure we're going through that process of making sure that the questions and the answers are correct and that they're the way that we want them. Okay. And from here too, you can continue the conversation. You can keep talking to the chatbot, have it produce more things. But that is going to be our multiple choice assessments.